Baha'u'llah, or the Blessed Beauty, came as the prophet of the Baha'i faith, with a message that the coming together of the peoples of the earth will lead all of us to peace and prosperity.
The Baha'i vision for the future is that this process of uniting humankind has begun and there's no turning back.
Baha'u'llah's revelation gives us hope that change can come and that we can build a better world together.
And it is not going to be achieved by a sense that if we just wait, God will make it happen, that will just magically appear and we'll all be happy and transcendently harmonious together.
You can't just sort of let the world unfold before you, but that you are an active member in whatever way you can, big or small, contribute to this process.
It's going to take the effort of every single individual working hard and believing in this vision that it can be made possible.
The oneness of humanity is far more than a slogan or an abstract and unattainable ideal. It has profound implications for both personal behavior and for the way society is organized, challenging many current assumptions and revolutionizing our conceptions of the relationships that should exist between the individual, society, and its institutions.
You know, we don't realize that we've been taught that there's a particular way of being human. We've been taught things about white people, we've been taught things about black people, we've been taught things about indigenous populations based on the cultural values or the values that underlie this civilization. Baha'u'llah has asked us to build a different one.
You know, obviously the pivotal principle of the Baha'i faith is the oneness of humanity. So we need to build up a different way that allows all people to participate.
This sort of educational process that very deliberately, very consciously, but very subtly, it erases any kind of distinction that would remain between oppressor and oppressed.
It's a pattern of consultation, it's a pattern of mutual respect, it's a pattern of cultural sharing, and it's also a pattern that takes people that have been on the margins and moves them to the center.
Awareness of the spiritual reality of human beings carries with it the moral requirement that all be given every opportunity to fulfill their potential and to contribute to the advancement of civilization. To this end, we have a twofold mission: to develop within our own community a pattern of life that increasingly reflects the spirit of Baha'i teachings, and to engage with others in a deliberate and collaborative effort to eradicate the ills afflicting our nation.
We are living in an age where there are two simultaneous processes occurring in the world. We have this disintegrating process that is breaking down these, age-old institutions and things that no longer suit the needs of humanity in its maturity.
In place of that, being built is a world order in which is based on the principles of the oneness of humanity, of the equality of men and women, of the unity of science and religion, and of the belief that all members of all race can make their own contributions.
Both of these processes serve to carry humanity along the path towards its full maturity.
This is an exciting age. I feel very blessed to be here and be a part of this process and just really sharing the love of Baha'u'llah with as many friends as I can.
A rich tapestry of community life that increasingly reflects the sublime teachings of the Blessed Beauty will not emerge of its own accord. The evils of racism, materialism, and moral decadence will be eradicated only by a love that is translated into action, such actions as deliberately going out of our way to befriend all, appreciating the indispensable contributions of all, and joining hands with all in the creation of a new world.
When I was in my home country, I used to love my family and my close friends, the people I grew up with, whom I consider family. I would have done anything for them. But I never thought about serving strangers, helping a stranger in the street, somebody I'm not gonna ever see again in my life, somebody I don't expect anything from him.
Maine is the whitest state in the US and very Catholic background. 15 years ago, Somali refugees started coming to Lewiston, and there's cheap housing there. So the whole downtown was empty lots, empty apartments, and they just started moving in, and once you spread the word in the Somali community or African communities, it just go really fast. And they keep coming every week. There are new Somali families that come to Lewiston. But then the Congolese and the Rwandan and Burundi, I think this is more in the last 5 years that they started coming. It's maybe between 5,000 and 8,000 immigrants for a 35,000 inhabitants.
The activities at the core of our community life are the foundation for great social change. Simple as they might appear, they are in reality profound and revolutionary. This becomes clear as we observe systematically applied in action some of the capacities we are building through insights derived from Baha'u'llah's revelation. Among them is the ability to engage in distinctive conversations of a spiritual character.
If you've been in a refugee camp, you didn't necessarily work or you didn't go to school.
I struggled a lot at school because I didn't know the language. I came here when I was 10. So I never went to school, so I started at 6th grade. So I really had to overcome learning the language, trying to fit in with others.
Getting to an environment where you don't know anybody, you got language barriers, you cannot ask a teacher what you don't understand. School barriers also, because I was doing very well in school, and from one day to another you go in school where you don't understand what the teacher is telling you. I think it affected me mentally in the way I wasn't feeling comfortable.
The way usually I introduce the program, if it's me, as hey, we have this program for junior youth, for children, and the purpose is to have a safe space that we are together, and junior youth is this special age between 12 and 15 years old, and they're not kids anymore, but they're not adults yet, so it's they're trying to figure out things, and sometimes they don't want to talk to parents, but they will turn to their friends. So it's important that they have a good group of friends. So here's what we offer. This is a program where we are a group of friends getting together, we're supporting each other, and we do activities together.
So this program really helps me get that leadership skills and helping the community, and we actually work together, and it's really comfortable working with them because we get to talk wherever we want.
So some of the greatest challenges that these families have is learning English. So I think speaking French was crucial.
She had something more in common. She spoke French, and I love speaking French. I was missing somebody who speak French with.
And be that bridge in a way between the American culture through the language.
We learn to converse with others about the fundamental purpose of life, the relationship of the soul with its creator, and the implications of Baha'u'llah's advent and his teachings for our spiritual and social progress.
They were talking about spiritual stuff, and I didn't know what it was, so I wanted to know, praying together, so I really like that. Because in my religion, we pray every day, 5 times a day, so praying is really important to me.
We read stories, and in those stories, our youth will learn how the characters in the stories have these wonderful virtues, such as, being patient, loving, forgiving, which will internally, reflect their life, and see how the youth will use what they learn from these stories in their own personal lives.
They talk to God. It's there's only one God, and they have their own prophet, but the words are similar to our same prophet Muhammad, and they're really similar. So I really like that.
We also learn to walk with others on the spiritual path in a humble posture of learning, engaging in individual and collective service for the betterment of the world.
It does not matter where you're from, where you've been, or what race you are, what religion you are. It's about the fact that you want to help others in your community and the world.
And service is really little thing you do for people. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Service could mean many things. It could be a simple act like cleaning the park, which might not be that simple. Today we're actually planning a big art craft to give to a mother who lost her son. I mean, how beautiful is that they were thinking with compassion about someone's pain. Or it can be to actually be a mentor for a group of younger adolescents.
It's all about service. And that's why the Baha'i in the communities are very important. It's something I cherish. Therefore, I want to share what these people who are Baha'i share with me, with the people in my community.
Hey, what's the alternative?
Hey, you want a hit?
Know an alternative.
Know an alternative.
People come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Thank you. You may not know that song, or I may have just sung it unrecognizably, I apologize, but it is a song from the Broadway show Wicked. And it's sung as a duet between the good witch and the bad witch, Elphaba. Because in this telling of the story, the lines between good and bad are quite blurred, and the roles are sometimes quite reversed. And what I love about this song is that it's about how we seemingly make these predestined soul contracts with people who come into and affect our lives by being a catalyst or a motivation for our change and our spiritual growth. Because not everyone is meant to stay in our lives. And the heartbreak from their leaving can end up being the ultimate opportunity for transformational healing, if we choose it, and sort of a personality upgrade, and also the acquiring of spiritual attributes that are born out of fighting our way back from emotional rock bottom. Now, we all know that there are two sides and two perspectives to every story, and at some point or another, we're going to end up being the bad guy in someone else's story. And I'm going to venture to say that most people don't set out to be the bad guy, nor do they perceive themselves to be the bad guy. So the spiritual attributes of empathy and forgiveness are key. Now, the long and the short of my story is that 3 years ago, my 8-year run as an actress on CSI Miami ended, and not long after, so did my marriage. Now, I feel like heartbreak has a universality to it, because everyone has or will go through it or experience it in one way or another. And for me, it was an aching, crippling grief, and that panic-induced regret for the things that I did do or I didn't do or I should have done. And it left me feeling like a gutted shell of myself, somebody I didn't even recognize anymore. And I wish I could say that I saw it coming, but I would have had to be open and aware for that, and I wasn't. So I allowed myself to willingly wallow in all of those, go-to feelings of blame and victimization and rage and shame and obsession and regret and remorse and unforgiveness. Any of those sound familiar? Anyone? Just guessing I'm not alone in that? Of course, followed by what seemed like months in the same sweats and like countless pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, none of which made me feel any better. But I do think it was important for me to allow myself to feel all of those feelings, because to selectively feel is to selectively love. And to selectively feel is to selectively forgive. I also knew that if I allowed all of this mistrust and these negative feelings to rule me, if this was the lens with which I viewed the world, I wouldn't be viewing the world as it is, for all of its blessings and possibility and love and magic. I would be viewing it as I was, through this terribly stained glass. So when the going got tough, I did what any rational person would do, and I started praying like a maniac for the outcome that I wanted. But God was a tough parent, and it was more like the universal law of tough love than the law of attraction. And it took me a while to realize that life is not about having my immediate wish list met, because how would I change and grow and evolve? And I came across this quote by the Dalai Lama that I would only lose if I lost the lesson. Okay, so this was like a glimmer of hope. I felt like, okay, I'm determined not to lose. If I have to endure this seemingly endless heartbreak, then by gum, I'm going to make it transformational heartbreak. So I knew I was going to have to, instead of staying defensive, I was going to need to get humble. I was going to need to get vulnerable for this kind of work. Because heartbreak and the despair and the depression that come from it are not character flaws. They're not weaknesses. The real weakness comes from the fear. It's the fear of looking at our suffering authentically and dealing with it wisely. So I knew I needed to take accountability. And I was going to have to start asking myself the tough, important questions, which were, what is the meaning of this pain? And what does it reveal to me? And what steps did I need to take to start healing on a deeper level? And when I started to open up, instead of staying crouched in my, Ben & Jerry's covered couch, I started being taught what to do next. Information and teachers started pouring into my life that helped to guide me forward. And Baha'u'llah said, I have ordained for thy training every atom in existence and the essence of all created things. Like, for me, I was like, OMG, this is, so we're living in an earth that is like a human growth lab 101. Because if I just started to listen with spiritual ears and be aware and observe, I would be shown the way and the way out of this pain. There's a fantastic photo that you may have seen circulating around the internet lately. I love this. Because to me it means that if our hands are full of what we think we need and what we think is so important to us, then we don't have hands free for the greater gifts that God has waiting for us. When we're stripped away of these things that, yes, they have real emotional value, but they no longer serve our growth or our spiritual purpose, then we have hands and arms free to receive the greater miracles that are born out of trials and tests. This is a shorter version by Abdu'l-Baha. I will give you the longer version of this quote. Tests are a means by which a soul is measured as to its fitness. God knows its fitness beforehand and also its unpreparedness. But man, with an ego, would not believe himself unfit unless proof were given him otherwise. I love that. And it is proven to him when he falls into tests. And then the tests are continued until the soul realizes its own unfitness, and then remorse and regret tend to root out the weakness. The same test comes again in greater degree until it is shown that a former weakness becomes a strength. I don't know about you, but that scared me straight. It sounded like a divine attitude adjustment to me. And I was determined to get to the bottom of my own character revision to try to avoid in any possible way the revisiting of these same kinds of tests. So it took a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie, and commitment. But through big epiphanies and beautiful breakthroughs and the sloughing off of layers and layers of self-limiting beliefs and patterns that I had that had been holding me back for so long and for so many years, I was able to truly connect to my spirit and to God again. And the happy ending in the middle of my story is that through that connection to God and my spirit, I was also able to find authentic joy and peace, finally. And that, in turn, connected me to renewed passion, new purpose, new work, new love. And none of that would have been possible. It couldn't have even been possible if I hadn't been stripped away of all the things I thought I needed. Now, forgiveness played a pivotal role for me. I think that it's easy to forget that forgiveness helps us sometimes more than it helps the people that we forgive. A dear friend of mine used to always say, unforgiveness is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Isn't that so true? For me, forgiveness was the key to freedom because it was the true letting go of the past so that I could live in and appreciate the present without contamination. And constantly, consciously choosing a new way of being and a new way of thinking was like defuzzing for me. It was taking old feelings off of new events so that I could enter into new relationships feeling worthy and with an illumined heart. So I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise with me. Normally this is a meditation, but you can do it eyes open or eyes closed, and it's a forgiveness meditation. So ask your heart right now to bring to mind someone that you still have a hard time forgiving. And imagine them here with you and see them as this person that you made a soul contract with. not as the human that they are with all their foibles and flaws and imperfections, but try to see them through God's eyes. And say to them now in your mind, I forgive you for all the things that you've done, consciously or unconsciously, to hurt, offend, or harm me in any way. And allow that to land. And now, I want you to say, please forgive me for anything I've done in retaliation or otherwise to hurt or harm or offend you, consciously or unconsciously. And allow that to land. And then the bigger one. Allow yourself forgiveness and empathy. Take a moment to forgive yourself for all the things you are ashamed of, ways that you behaved that you're not proud of, not being compassionate or empathic to yourself, all the ways consciously or unconsciously we're cruel to ourselves, for all the anger or rage or blame. Forgive yourself. And now hug this person and thank them for the gifts and send them on their way. Now, forgiveness is rarely linear. There are many levels to it, and many times we have to do this exercise again and again. But it is truly a tool and a key to breaking your spirit free to shine again. Thank you.
Know the alternative.
Know the alternative.
When you leave your mark on this world, leave a lasting mark.
Leave a mark that'll stand the test of time. A mark that can't be erased with a single stroke.
When you leave your mark on this world, leave one that'll last forever.